Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant for July. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. I know these readings are late. Thank you for waiting for me. I do appreciate it. So, let's crack straight on. Can I have 3 cards for Libra, please? We have the 6 of Cups in your recent past. Current energy for Libra, please. We have the Ace of Pentacles and what is coming towards Libra for July, please. Whoa, wow, okay. We have the 9 of Cups. Wow, that's very orderly. I like that very much. We've got the Queen of Cups at the bottom of the deck. She's represented by, well, she represents rather the sign of Cancer, and we are, as I'm recording this, in Cancer season right now. And I don't think there's a sign that's getting away without some internal reflection this month. I've seen it for every single sign, and it's the result of this internal reflection is manifesting differently for each of the signs, but it is all coming from that same core root. And to that end, I think that it's really interesting that we do have the 6 of Cups in your recent past matching up with this Queen of Cups here. And the reason that I said it feels very orderly is because there's almost like a problem reaction solution thing going on here, kind of almost like a subconscious emotional reconciling Hegelian dialectic going on. I've got the Devil at the bottom of the deck when I stop shuffling. I'm actually going to shuffle these. This is not the card, but I think this is interesting. This is Capricorn energy, and we have had just recently that Capricorn full moon, which is very much involved with release because it is a full moon. But it's I think when you kind of bring the Capricorn energy into it, it does speak about value systems and goals and the things that we choose to put the work into. And I want to kind of pin that as an idea because I do think that we'll be coming back to it. I'm going to shuffle this Devil back into here and give these a good shuffle. No doubt if he wants to come out again, he shall. But I think that you're looking for ways to change your day to day. There are things that you wish to bring in that have been, I think, relatively absent. And it's almost like you've got to this point now of evolution, wisdom, maturity, experience, where you can see where in the past there was perhaps an emotional deficit, and perhaps you passed that emotional deficit on to other people. Whenever we get the Queen of Cups and the 9 of Cups in a reading, we're definitely talking about some sort of emotional expansion, right? Being willing to receive, but also being willing to give. Taking ownership of our emotions, yes, and not being ruled by the subconscious, which, you know, most of us are most of the time, until we sit in a state of conscious contemplation of what it is that is going on in there with us, you know. I'm jumping too far ahead. Let's get some other cards. Something about the 6 of Cups. Wow. We've got the 7 of Pentacles and the Magician. Interesting. And the Ace of Pentacles, please. We've got the King of Pentacles coming up with Strength and the Sun. Interestingly enough. Both cards of Leo. King of Pentacles is Taurus. Tell me about this 9 of Cups. Thank you. 5 of Cups in reverse. And the 6 of Cups. Right, with the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck, so that's in a very short space of time. We have 2 wands showing up for you here, and there's the Ace of Pentacles that's sitting behind there. Right. True to your form, you know, Libra, your card, one of your cards, is the Queen of Swords. That's your queen, and she is very discerning energy of sifting through great deals of information, right? She works out what is useful, what is not, what is true, what is not, what helps her move forwards, and what is going to hold her back. And as almost like a representation of what this reading is. It feels like the Queen of Swords energy is very, very strong in you. Now, it's being directed towards things of an emotional nature. There is absolutely no getting away from that with the cards that we have on the table. But it's underpinned with a desire for change, a desire for new. And I feel like you've only just hit this place. Now, when I say that, it seems like perhaps all of the pieces have just fallen into place. And we'll get into that in a minute with the Six of Cups. But where you are now, it feels like it's the first time in your life where you can really take stock of what your life has been comprised of, what things might have been missing. And there's a resolve here to bring those things in. There's an opening up of you that feels very, very strong here, Libra, very strong. So let's go through the cards, and then I can kind of weave it all together and show you what I mean. So the very first card that we've got is the Six of Cups, and this is a card that deals with the past, beautifully depicted by Anatolian here, because the past exists nowhere apart from in our head. It's literally gone. You know, what I was doing 10 minutes ago doesn't exist anymore. It's not a thing. It's only in my head. And, you know, whatever narrative I've, you know, subconsciously laid down about what I was doing 10 minutes ago is now in there for me and me alone. And whether that might at some point in a year or so trip me up, I don't think so, because I wasn't doing anything particularly important 10 minutes ago. It's kind of by the by. The fact is that it's the past. And I think that you've been in some contemplation of the past. And I feel like there's something that spurred this on. There's something that stirred this into life for you. Because, I mean, sometimes our minds kind of wander that way, but it seems very specific. It seems to me like you're thinking about a very specific situation. And more than that, and so I feel like it involves somebody else and somebody else's behaviour, whether it's in the present or in the past or whatever. It doesn't really matter, you know, we have past foundations of present behaviour and things like that. But what I feel you going back through and looking for is what part you may have played in causing this situation to occur. Not in a way that seeks to blame or be judgmental towards yourself about, or even actually towards the other person, but more in a way of searching for answers. It's not hermit energy exactly, because sometimes the energy of the hermit can be quite immaterial. It's about inward journeying after all, right? So there's very little to demonstrate outside of you that that's going on, but there seems to be a much more practical aspect to what it is that you're looking at here. It's very discerning, but it's very, very objective. Now, I don't know why I'm saying that in a surprised way, because you know you are a very objective sign. But it's the fact that it involves so much emotion. I'm actually quite impressed with how you're managing to pull this about. Now, the cards that clarify here are the Seven of Pentacles and the Magician. Like I said, the Seven of Pentacles is in the reverse. Now, in some ways, I think I would have preferred this Seven of Pentacles to have been in the upright, because it's quite a thinking energy, right? You know, he's actually shown to be quite contemplative there, and he's staring at what it is that he has built, what it is that he has grown. And whilst his face may have a bit of disappointment in it, he's trying to work out what to do next. But the thing is, it's turned up in the reverse for you. So actually, no. Yeah, okay, fair enough, thank you. You've moved beyond that. You've moved beyond idle contemplation. Now you are looking for solutions. This is very solution-oriented thinking. It's interesting. It's quite a masculine way of thinking about things. Whereas in the upright, the Seven of Pentacles, it is about that active contemplation in the here and now, but not really knowing what it is that you're going to do moving forward. This is having some idea of at least the direction that you're going in. And it's come up with the Magician. That Magician. Sorry, I impress myself with myself sometimes, right? So I was shuffling away and I was like, oh, I bet this is where the devil comes out, right? And in fact, 2 cards came out and only one of them was face up, and it was the Queen of Swords in reverse. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I turned over the other one and it was the devil, which is interesting. Very interesting. How many times can I say interesting? Fascinating. Because you could be dealing with a Capricorn, but even if you're not, what you are dealing with is a kind of really deep-seated, almost fear of yours. But you're going about it in such a practical and objective way that it's almost losing its terror now. And when I said before, like I felt like there was no other point in your life where you could come to where you are right now and do the kind of deep dive that you are doing right now. I'm absolutely serious. Because I think that this would have terrified the shit out of you 10 years ago. Because I don't think that your ego would have been able to deal with what came up. You know, there's certainly a sense of a lack of discernment and possibly some, you know, bad decisions made. But what I'm seeing here is this curious interplay between the idea that you, of the Magician being there, you know, and having all the tools that they need. And I wonder if that in the past you were always quite certain that you were doing the right thing, and perhaps you did not brook any kind of suggestion to the contrary, right? And if that is the case, then that was an ego position rather than necessarily a reality position. Because this devil and the Queen of Swords in reverse is saying there was a time where you did not think as clearly as you are doing now, where you are not as objective as you are now, and where fear ruled your decision making. So then the Magician can either be that point of almost like the necessity of ego, and almost the ego of necessity. It's like you didn't really have a choice in doing things the way you were doing them at the time, because you did it with the information. You did your best with the information that you had available. Looking back, you can see that that wasn't perhaps the way that you would do things now, right? And there were mistakes made, possibly. And there were consequences that flowed from that. But the other way of looking at the Magician and the Seven of Pentacles here is exactly what I was talking about there, is that will, that resolve to be better today than you were yesterday, and to be better tomorrow than you are today. And giving up any kind of ego attachment to the idea that you're perfect, will always be perfect, and have always been perfect, you know? There's a curious vulnerability combined with a very subtle strength. And it's not subtle as in it's not powerful, because it's extremely powerful, but it's presenting very subtly. Because you feel to me like you are starting to get a handle on your mind that you thought you always had, but didn't, and are only really seeing that in retrospect. In hindsight being 2020 and all that, but I think that you would do things very, very differently now if you were presented with the same situation. What do we have here? We have the King of Wands, speaking of doing. We have the Temperance card, and we have the Magician. There's healing coming about from the way that you're doing this, and it's absolutely necessary. It's healing for you, but I feel like there's a wider healing going on. feel like you're picking up all of your relationships by your bootstraps, by their bootstraps, and being all like, no, this is important to me. I want to invest in this. And you don't have any time for self-pity. You don't have any time for this woe is me kind of attitude. You don't actually have any time for regret. There might be a little smidgen of it somewhere, but it doesn't feel like it's important in the same way as establishing your personal growth, the growth of your relationships, and the stability moving forwards. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why I am, but I'm really surprised by the level of objectivity that's going on here in this reading. Because there's a commitment to growth. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I see the Pentacles as energetic currency, right? So anything that you are capable of investing then becomes a pentacle. And that can be your time and your care and your effort and your money and your love. Like anything like that becomes a pentacle. So then when the Ace of Pentacles arrives, being as it is potential, what we have here is an opportunity to redeploy your energy and attention and money and love and all of those kind of things in a direction that is going to bear fruit in future. This is not a card of instant gratification. It can be sometimes, but it's more about giving you the opportunity to access the potential to grow it into something. So, you know, you might get a new job, or you might get a new house, or you might get a promotion or something like that. You know, all of these things are possible, but they require further investment to really go anywhere. You might get a new job, but you might, you know, you might skive for like a week because the weather's nice, and then you get fired because you get found out or something like that, right? You know, without diligent effort after it, the potential just kind of evaporates. It's not even delayed gratification. It feels to me like you're building, Libra, and you've started with yourself. Now, it might have started with practical considerations. It might have been a money issue, or it might have been a time issue, or it might be a value issue. It might be something that, you know, you are realizing that is important to you now in a way that you didn't realize it was before. Or actually it's just become more important to you than it had before. We've got the King of Pentacles, Strength, and the Sun. The King of Pentacles is, it's often a card that speaks about responsibility. You know, the King of Pentacles shows his care and devotion by literally showing up, right? That's what he does. He provides, he shows up, he's responsible, he's reliable. It's Taurus energy. And as such, it tends to be around the areas of home and family and work, you know, kind of spread out around those, and they're kind of intertwined as far as the King of Pentacles is concerned. But being as the King of Pentacles is wielding this Ace of Pentacles here, it feels like you're committing to a new way of doing things, right? There's a new value that you have in your life that you want to expand. You want to fill it with more of that. You want to grow within it, in fact. And you want to fill your life with joy. We've got these two Leo cards here. And Leo is associated with children, so it could possibly have something to do with children or grandchildren or something like that, you know. But there's almost a recognition of a path that is kind of assembling in front of you that leads inexorably to growth, but also joy. And you want to take it. And in order to do that, you have to, as we've discussed before, create space. And you're sort of doing that by sifting through your mind and working out what it is that you can let go of. What are the fears that have held you back? What are the fears that have tainted your judgment in the past and made you make decisions that you would not make now? I don't feel like you're trying to fix the past. I don't even feel like you're trying to find desperately a way to forgive yourself for any mistakes that you might have made. It's far too objective for that. It's an undertaking to make sure that you don't make the mistakes again. Because ultimately what we're looking at here is a desire to live differently. Living differently, with your attention going in a different way, in a different direction to where it has done before, right? Maybe you have discovered what is important to you, and maybe it is relationships, maybe it is a new business. That's one way of looking at these two cards here. Either way, there's changes afoot. And at the moment, I don't think that you've sat and daydreamed about it quite enough to be excited about it. There's something very, very practical and methodical about the way that you're approaching these things at the moment. It's almost like you've made a mental list of all of your faults and all of the ways in which those faults manifest themselves and what the consequences of that was. But there's no shame or guilt attached to it. Maybe a tinge of regret, but not very much. It's more like a spreadsheet. Okay, so when I've done this, it's led to this, and that's possibly caused this. I don't really want that in my life anymore, so I'm going to go back down here. I don't want to do that either. This seems to work. I like this. I'm going to stick with that, so that's good. This Capricorn full moon might well have had you turfing out attitudes to things, approaches to things, but fundamentally boiling things down to what really is important, what holds value to you, and how you tap into the potential that seems to be sitting there so that you can cultivate more. And what we've got coming towards you in July is the Nine of Cups. Now, that's sometimes called the wish card. And it's one that talks about, great deal of personal contentment. But it's a little bit more than that, because it's a taking ownership of. And I feel like because you are owning all of your past mistakes, but you're doing it in such an objective and thorough, methodical way, you're not falling into the trap that most people fall into, where they forget to be compassionate to themselves. I don't actually feel like you need to be compassionate towards yourself, because there's that level of objectivity there. There's almost like a formula that you're looking for here. Where has my personal devil manifested itself in my behaviours? There. Right, okay, let's dig into those. What's that about? How is it, how is it manifested? What are the results? Are we interested in doing that again? We are not. So we're going to take that out of the way. It's taking ownership, for sure. But there's a sense here that what you are investing in is not only your own personal happiness, but the desire to be open to more of the things that bring you joy. And close down and eradicate the things from the past that have previously perhaps not even made you sad, but sort of gnawed away on the edge of your soul a little bit, right? This is a card of focusing on the wrong thing. It's very unstable card, and sometimes it can talk about grief and regret, and maybe it's even bitterness and things like that. But for me, the most stabilizing thing that you can do to a card numbered 5 is to turn it up in the reverse. And so this is, rather than focusing on the cups that are spilled, it is looking up from the ground and realizing that cups still remain. There are many things to be grateful for, and more than that, we've got a little castle in the background and a bridge across to there, if you can see it. Life does not end exactly where you are and exactly where these 3 cups are. Rather, this is part of a process, part of a path that you can choose to take to go somewhere else. But if you stand still, you're never going to go anywhere. Now, the fact that it's showing up in the reverse means to me you're not standing still. And more than that, I think where you have harboured some guilt about the past, you've let it go. You are letting it go. And I suspect it's because you can see things in front of you that mean more to you than what's been sitting around in your brain for the longest time. And for some of you, it might be about refusing to take responsibility for somebody else's fuck-ups. That could be possible if you've had relationships that broke down, and you perhaps you were a people pleaser in it or something like that, or maybe you've had some sort of falling out with someone, kind of going, actually, do you know what, that was not my issue, and if that person wants out of my life, then that's their thing, But the point is, it's about being able to see where you could not see before. I mean, you could not see before because you were looking down and staring at the ground, you know. Like I said, there could be kids involved in here somewhere. That could be possible. The fact that we've got that double Leo cards, those double Leo cards in there too. And we've got a whole reading that seems to be speaking about the truly knowing what is important now. And a lot of very methodical effort in bringing more of that towards you. Thank you. Eight of Swords in reverse. Right. The mindset that led you, the fears, the underpinning fears that led you to exercise judgment that was less than stellar in the past. You've no room for it. And I don't feel like this being a big, long, dark night of the soul. It actually feels like something bordering on dismissive. All right, okay, I've worked out what the answer is now. I don't need to do that anymore. I'm headed this way instead. You've truly outgrown what was emotionally very difficult for you before. And now your focus is very much on the future. What's the card at the bottom of the deck there is the Page of Wands. It's the directions that you are now looking to move in. It's not movement itself, because that would be the Knight of Wands, or one of the Knights possibly, right? This is about getting excited about what the future actually can hold for you, if you choose it. And if you choose, more specifically, joy, rather than being weighed down by responsibilities that don't belong to you. You feel like you're very hard at work, and it doesn't feel like you're really taking too much of a moment to sit back and look at the broader picture of things. Because you're too busy, you know? But the busyness is good. The business is really good. It's like when I accidentally just gave up caffeine randomly last August. I didn't mean to. I had not intended to at all. I just didn't really fancy a coffee. And here we are, 11 months later, still not fancying a coffee. And I've tried to give up coffee before, and I got blistering headaches, and I had to, like, I slept a lot and all that sort of thing. Didn't get that this time. It was like my body had completely forgotten that caffeine was a thing that it ever had a relationship with, and it just let it go. And there were no, physical withdrawal consequences whatsoever. In a roundabout way, there's a similar sort of thing that I can feel going on with you here. It's like maybe you've tried to touch on this before, and maybe the pain, maybe the guilt, maybe the shame, maybe the embarrassment, actually, was just a little bit too much to bear, and your ego was kind of cracking, and you were like, nope, not doing this, can't deal with it. And then one day, out of the blue, it just seems to have happened all by itself. And it's enabled you to explore parts of yourself that up until this point were kind of off limits. And the bits that hurt about it, they aren't really there. Instead, we've just got a big mine of information that you can plunder to ensure that your life moving forwards is far more like the kind of life that you want rather than the kind of life that you've had. I like it. That's very, very good. Very straightforwards as well, which I like. I know faffing about. Kind of envious, actually. Yes. So, if this has resonated with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, I am going to go over to Vimeo now. You're welcome to join me. The link is in the description box underneath this video. Or you could join the Patreon channel if you so wished. If you join at the higher tier, you get the middle tier. You get access to all of the extended content, so you can watch for your other placements or cross-watch or whatever it is that you want to do. But if not, just know that I thoroughly approve with the energy that you are in and will continue to be for the rest of this month. It seems to be setting you up to go in a very positive direction, and and you could not possibly have done it at any other point in your life than now. And I think it's a measure of how much you've grown, if I'm honest, Libra. No, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.